Hi, this is Dr. Sacha McBain, clinical psychologist and associate director of the Center for Trauma Prevention, Recovery, and Innovation at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. This is our last video in our series, CPR for PTSD, How to Calm and Prevent Realarm for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorders. If you're just tuning in and you haven't seen our other videos, I recommend that you click on the links in the description box to access all of the other videos as part of this series. We talk about what trauma is, trauma-related disorders. We talk about how emotions are related to trauma triggers, and then we spent a lot of time talking about different coping skills, how to create a coping skills plan. And we're finally here in the last video where we're going to be talking about trauma treatments and how to develop treatment goals. Before we jump into talking about the different trauma treatments and treatment goals, I want to give a brief summary of all that we've talked about in this series that will help you understand maybe how to decide what treatment might be right for you and what your goals for therapy might be. PTSD and complex PTSD are mental health problems that cause anxiety or stress after a traumatic events or circumstances. Every person has symptoms a different way. What we do know is that trauma affects the body and the brain. When you experience trauma and stress, your body does too. When you're healing from trauma, it is important to take care of your body and learn to listen to your body's signals, like when you're tired or when you're sick. Trauma affects families and communities. Intergenerational and historical trauma can impact groups of people in ways that you may not have thought were related to trauma. For example, how your family communicates or the health of your family or community. We feel emotion in our body. Our mind and our body are connected. Being able to identify how you feel in your body, like noticing your chest is tight when you're upset, can help you deal with emotions instead of avoiding them. We know that trauma affects emotions. Trauma can make it hard for your emotions to help you. You might feel closed off, numb, or that your emotions are too much. A trigger is a reminder of the trauma. It is a piece of the event that comes into the present and reminds you of what happened. Staying in the window of tolerance can help deal with triggers. The window of tolerance is when you can handle your emotions, think clearly, and be active and alert. You can use coping strategies to stay in the window of tolerance so that you're less likely to be triggered. There are lots of different types of coping strategies to help you heal from trauma. No one skill is a fix-all. One thing that's important when integrating new skills is to build a routine. It's important to practice coping strategies while you are in the window of tolerance so that they work better when you are triggered. Schedule times to practice using coping strategies. Healing from trauma can also include activism to change policies or systems that cause trauma, like racism or community violence. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 main trauma treatments. These are not all the treatments that exist in the world, but these are the 3 that we hear and think about most commonly when it comes to treating PTSD. And they are cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR. I'm going to talk about each of those 3 treatments a little bit more in depth. First, let's talk about cognitive processing therapy, which we call CPT. CPT teaches you a new way to handle upsetting thoughts that happen after a trauma. CPT believes that by changing your thoughts, you can change how you feel. And their idea is that if you can change how you interpret and think about a trauma, that will change how you feel, and you can process feelings around the trauma in order to heal naturally. So basically, it's this idea that natural recovery is blocked, and CPT is all about unsticking you and helping you make sense of what happened and feel the emotions that are part of the trauma so that you can keep moving forward and healing. In CPT, you'll learn skills that will help you decide if there's a better way to think about your trauma. You'll learn how to look at facts that support your thought or do not support your thought, and it will help you decide if it makes sense to think about your trauma in a different way. Prolonged exposure, or PE, is a type of cognitive behavioral therapy. PE teaches you to deal with your memories, feelings, and situations from the trauma that you may be avoiding. And this can help lessen your PTSD symptoms. So prolonged exposure is much more about the experiences and confronting avoidance that often happens after experiencing a trauma. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. This is a therapy that is designed to help you process memories, thoughts, and feelings from your trauma. You may be asked to focus on something moving back and forth or a sound. And while you do that, you think about the memory and talk to your therapist about it. And so over the course of multiple sessions, it helps you to have less of an extreme emotion associated with the memory and to be able to make sense of the experience. There's some really important things to know about trauma treatment or accessing therapy in general. It's really important to advocate for yourself and to remember that you need to find someone that you feel comfortable and safe with. And that might take some time, whether it's you pick somebody that you have a good feeling about, but then you have to build trust with them. But it also may take a few tries to find a therapist that really feels like the right fit. So please don't give up. If it's not the first person, keep trying, because eventually you will find somebody that feels like the right fit. I encourage you to be open with your therapist about what your needs are, or if you're having trouble coming to therapy, your therapist can actually help you problem solve around that. And so it's really important to have that open line of communication, and it comes back to picking someone that you feel like you can really trust. When you're meeting with a therapist or you're talking to them on the phone before a session, it's okay to ask your therapist questions about their experience working with people like you, whether it's people who have had similar experiences to you, or people that are your same age, or race or ethnicity, or sexual orientation, or a previous diagnosis that you have. I encourage you to advocate for yourself and ask those questions. You can ask providers about their training or experience in the therapies that I've talked about or in working with trauma, and that can help you make a decision about who you want to work with. To help you decide on a treatment that might work for you, I really encourage you to visit www.ptsd.va.gov/apps/decision aid. This is a tool that was designed by the National Center for PTSD to help people learn more about the different trauma treatments and to get a sense of what one might be the best fit for their personality, what experience that they had, and what they're willing to do in the therapy process. So I really encourage you to check that out. It's a great resource, has lots of videos from experts and more information than I can provide in this short video. Over the course of these videos, I hope that you've been thinking about how these different symptoms or experiences relate to your life and what symptoms are causing you the most distress, where you need help in building coping skills, and how you would like to process trauma if you want to process it at all. And so it's really important to think about what are your goals for treatment. And you might not know exactly, but you can ask yourself some questions to help you figure that out, and your therapist can work with you to define your treatment goals. And so you can start by thinking about what is bothering you the most? What's most getting in your way of living the life that you want to live? What would you change to make your life healthier? Or what would have to change in order to give you relief? By answering those questions, that can help you start to determine what your therapy goals are. Let's put this into practice with an example. Let's say that you went through the questions and you decided that in order for you to live the healthier life that you wanted to live, and the thing that is most distressing to you right now is the painful memories and unwanted thoughts that have come up around the trauma. That would be something that you would set as your goal. So your goal would be have less painful memories and unwanted thoughts. And then you'd ask yourself, what do I need to do in order to reach that goal? Well, you might need to learn how to process painful emotions. Maybe every time those thoughts come up, you just avoid them and you don't want to think about them, and then they get bigger every time. So you need to probably learn how to cope with those painful emotions. And then maybe you need to actually process the trauma, the thing that's leading to those unwanted thoughts. And so then you need to ask yourself, when would I like to reach my goal? So I think, we know that with the evidence-based trauma treatments that exist, it's possible to have your PTSD symptoms reduced within 6 months. So let's say that your goal is, I want to have less painful memories and unwanted thoughts within 6 months. And then you can ask yourself, how do I know when I've reached my goal? One could be when you no longer feel that your memories control you, when you feel like unwanted thought comes up and you're able to let it pass over you and you don't have a big reaction to it. Another way that you can know that you've reached your goal is maybe that you're not constantly reminded of your trauma. You're not thinking about it every day. You might even go a couple days or a week at a time of not thinking about it. And eventually you might go months without thinking about the trauma. Those are kind of getting really specific about understanding what your goal is based on what you feel like is getting most in your way in this moment. That's everything that we're going to cover for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to CPR for PTSD. I hope that you found this series informative. We've talked about a lot of different topics, and this is just the beginning. This series is designed to give you some language and tools that you can use that I hope that you'll bring into therapy, that you'll bring into your daily life to help you heal and cope from the trauma that you've experienced. If you need help accessing care, you've tried to get in touch with a therapist, or you now feel like you're ready to do so, please check out the description box for links to resources of how to get in touch with a therapist. I will link some resources here local in Arkansas, but if you're watching outside of Arkansas, I'll also link some national resources that can help you get started. And I thank you so much again for tuning in. I wish you the best. I hope that you use these skills. And for now, goodbye.